Hello and welcome to the Weekend Edition. I'm Dr. Kingori. We have a great show lined up for you. Najua hata before tuanze show, hii mjaona.
I have a guest who is President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. It's unbelievable. I can't even. It's unbelievable. Oh my God. I'm very thankful, Mr. President. I'm very thankful.
Okay. So hiyo ndio standard reaction ya president wa Kenya wakilia. Muendelee. The gentleman has been identified as Dennis Muriithi, who was overwhelmed after meeting President Uhuru mpaka akasahau kufanya interview. Now people have made such a big deal out of this. Ni kama yeye ndio Mkenya wa kwanza kulia juu ya Uhuru. Kama nyinyi ulia na mjapatana na yeye. Na sasa mkipatana na yeye.
Acha nilie kwanza. Oi! Oi! Ai! Oi! 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 Oi!
I think Dennis Muriithi was just being himself that day. He was just being moody. Now, it's been an eventful week. This week, the Interior PS, Karanja Kibicho, ndio huyo ametangaza that 6-year-old aged children, amani children aged 6 years, will now be allowed to get identification cards. Basically, maanda 18 wanaenda kupewa ID, which means moving forward, COVID ikiisha, mabouncer watahave kutafuta ideas zingine za kudetect watoto. Buda, unaniambia ati siwezi ingia na mimi ni mtu niko na ID buda. Nini wewe? Nini? Alafu bouncer anamwambia, buda, mimi hakuna kitu unaniambia. Siku hizi hata watoto wako na ID. Songa huko. Bouncer mwingine anakam. Jemo bana, achilia huyo kijana aingie. Yaani wewe unao jamaa si mtoto. Kwani hujui tofauti ya mtoto na mikisi? Now, come to think of it, the ID card has always been a measure of maturity. Mgoshwa hii kitu haitapatia watoto kiburi. How does a teacher even send a child home to bring the parents akifanya makosa? Ati teacher sasa unataka tuingize mkoro kwa mambo ya Pythagoras theorem na mambo ya pi d. Hii ni kitu tunaweza discuss kama watu wako na ID. Mazesikia calligraph. The calligraph in me just showed up. Haters have dismissed this initiative claiming that it's not the first time serikali itakuwa inapea watoto ID. Kwani Willis Raburu utoa pesa na nini? Anyway, we have a great show lined up for you. Kama kawaida, our guest for this episode is a man of God, one of the few who've been able to cut across generations. Bishop Moja akona vibes poa sana, and I'm so glad he was able to join us for this episode. Bishop David Muriithi wa House of Grace is in the house. I also have some great vibes from Telkom Kenya. Yeah, affordable data bundle packages. The offer is still on. 30 GB unapata na 1000 bob only, and that's like heaven mazi. Kama unatambua mtandao unajua hiyo ni kama mbinguni baby. Telkom has the most affordable data packages na mnajua hiyo if you've been following the show, and I'll be telling you more about that in a bit. But first, more than 210 prisoners this week escaped from a prison in Karamoja region in Uganda. Isn't it shocking that they have prisons in Uganda? I thought the whole country was like a prison. Or what did they mean in geography wakituambia Uganda is a landlocked country? Ama hapo nimechoma. Anyway, the prisoners are reported to have made the run without any clothes on, as in they escaped naked, probably as a sign that they had nothing to hide. But there's only two reasons why the prisoners would have escaped naked. One, not to be identified using the prison uniform and the shame that comes with that, which for me does not make sense because uniform ya jela Uganda huku Kenya ni uniform ya wasanii wa gospel. Alafu sasa in return jela za huku Kenya wase wa udunga jazi za maniu for symbolism, you know, kufungwa. Now the second reason prisoners would escape naked is strategic. Sawa ametoroka lakini ako uchi, utamshika wapi? That said, let's turn to our reporter Kenyan Jui for other stories making the news.
Guesswork has this week witnessed a temper-induced form of cuddling at the Migori County ya Sebre, na duru za kutoaminika zimetuarifu kwamba jamaa huyu alifinywa na suti till he wished he had come to work naked. While breaking down this action frame by frame, our expert analysts have described this as one of the 48 rules of power. That is, keep your enemies closer. Physically, anataka kwenda wapi? Haraka ni ya nini? The advantage of this is that it reduces the distance covered by a punch by up to 70%, thereby minimizing impact, therefore ruling out a possible knockout during a confrontation. It is alleged that the Assembly Deputy Speaker, Mr. Omaba, who is fresh from impeachment, was the cause of the chaos. In fact, at some point, kuna jamaa alimchagamkia to show him some tough love. But turns out he is allergic to hugs. Our speculation department has observed that in almost every county assembly, there's always one old lady who escapes before the location changes to Iraq 2003. This was in Kisumu, and now this was Migori this week. To quote Kenny Rogers, the moral of the story is, every grandma knows that the secret to survival is knowing when to run. Basically, guesswork has identified the coward of the county. Representing the guesswork fraternity on the Wicked Edition, guess who? Kenya!
Good vibes from our reporter Kenya Njui to good vibes from Telkom Kenya mazi. Kwanza last week niliwaambia niko na 2,000 ya kupeana na nikauliza swali simple sana. Nipatie tu reason why you think I should give you that airtime. And keep ngeno bet pale Twitter @KipNgenoBet_ alituambia hapo ati my neighbor aliniwahi password yake ya wifi but speed iko chini mazi, hata kudownload simple Google page sometimes ni ngori mazi. Mniwahi hiyo 2K ya Telkom hata mimi niweze kushine kwa ploti miezi miwili. Huo ni mtu anajua na 2,000 ya credo Telkom uko na hiyo ni 30GB yenye unaweza survive nayo mwezi mzima. Telkom Kenya is out here offering data bundle packages za nguvu. I'm talking about 30GB unapata na 1,000 peke yake, alafu ukiwa na 100 bob unapata 2GB coming with an extra 2GB night bundles, na ukiwa na 60 bob peke yake uko na 700 MBs coming with another 700 MBs in the form of night data bundles. Why are you missing out? Why are you missing out? Now, of late, we have had increasing cases of depression, and I was particularly interested in the angle that depression can partly be blamed on absent fathers. As in not single mothers, absent fathers. Now, this comes at a time when single parenthood seems like it's in style, ni kama iko fashion. And then I came across this video where award-winning actor Denzel Washington made this controversial statement on the relationship between absent fathers and why many black people end up in jail in America.
More important to make headway in our own house. By the time the system comes into play, the damage is done. They're not locking up 7-year-olds. It starts in the house. It starts in the home. And well, my father got locked up. Well, where was his father?
Yeah.
You know, like I did talk about my 3 closest friends, and they did, 15 to 25, one did 28, this and that. I was the only one of the 3 that had a father in my life, even though my parents were together, but I still had a father who was a gentle man and a good example, and they didn't. We can blame the system if we want, but they didn't lock any of us up at 7.
Yeah.
We were all doing enough to get locked up at 13. My parents sent me in another direction. They didn't have anybody to help them, and they kept doing what they was doing.
History, maybe it applies that in our society, but how true is that statement? We have Bishop David Muriithi, our House of Grace, on the other end of this short break to help us break down this subject further. You do not want to miss this for anything. See you guys in a bit. Welcome back to the Wicked Edition. I'm Dr. Kingori. Like kama kawaida nimwambia, we have a great show lined up for you. Our guest for this evening ni Bishop David Muriithi wa House of Grace. Karibu sana Bishop.
Thank you very much.
A pleasure to have you. Kumbe, the absence of a father affects someone in the long run kwa life.
Yeah, certainly they do.
Okay.
Because one of the things about having a father in the family is because, first of all, you have a man of authority in the house, and particularly when it comes to boys. Yes. Vijana now gets to a place where, wakifika a certain age, the single mother can have a very tall order or struggle in raising them and disciplining them.
Okay.
So when it comes to boys in particular, not everybody, but generally speaking, but you see boys respect their father. Then look about it. I mean, boys, what role models do they have if they don't have a man in the house? Your mother will always be a woman at the end of the day.
Okay.
You see, so having a man in the house is extremely crucial.
Okay.
And I do know that some, unfortunately, because of husbands dying or divorce or separation and stuff.
Yes.
They're not able to, and they are denied that privilege. But generally speaking, having a man and a man is a symbol of authority.
Apart from the psychological effect ya a father not being there, sijui kama hiyo absenteeism, deadbeatism can be inherited. For example, there's a musician anaitwa Diamond. You may have heard of him.
Nimemsikia.
Oh, umemsikia? Oh, hujasikia ngoma zake. So there's kuna musician anaitwa Diamond. He actually sings about, inaitwaje? He praises his mother a lot. His mother has been there. His mother has raised him all alone. And then he himself, sahi anajulikana kwa kukuwa na watoi different places. Unaget? And some of the mothers of his children, he's technically Father Abraham, some of the mothers of his children wanasema he's neglected their children. So would you say that this is something that can be inherited? It runs in the family?
I think it's not inherited. There's nothing to do with inheritance, but I think it is taught. Because you see, what has happened to some people is that they have not been taught responsibility.
Okay.
So you father children all around, but you have not been taught or the foundational responsibility, and that it is beyond the bed, the affair that you're having. Some people think they just look the bed, but that relationship, when you have it, sometimes can go beyond the bed. So when it goes beyond the bed, what do you do?
Okay.
And that's where the point of responsibility comes in.
Okay.
So a lot of men need to be taught responsibility. Can you be responsible for the seeds that you're sprouting all over the place?
Pollination. Responsible pollination. Unajuanga standard grace period ya a marriage ama a strong relationship ni 2 years. It's because people skive marriage counseling. Could that be the real reason watu wanaachana haraka sana, apart from blue ticks?
I think kuna reasons more. See, marriage counseling peke yake. You see, initially people would stay in marriages because of the pressure. It's also a question of being honest, because a lot of people are in marriages before which were not working, but they were there because of the sake of being.
The pressure hiyo ya watu wenye
Exactly.
wako. Kwa hivyo basi hii kupost marriage kwa Instagram it helps because the idea ya mko pamoja juu watu wanajua mko pamoja inapatia pressure ya kukaa pamoja.
Well, you see, when you start posting things, then when you don't post, we think something is wrong.
Okay. So the secret of marriage is pressure, the bishop has said.
It's not really pressure.
Yes.
Because you can get married to the right person and you're happily married and you're okay. I'm talking about the people who separate.
Yes.
And the reasons why some of them are still together and some of them who have separated.
Okay.
You understand me? But there's still people who are happily married, love each other, and there's no pressure, there's no stress.
Yes.
And they're okay.
Bishop, what kind of a father are you? What kind of a father are you?
I have been a father for many, many years. I think my son is now 28 years. Yeah. I've got a father and a son. And never divorced. Same house, same wife. So that tells you the kind of father I am.
And what are you doing that other people are not doing, say?
I try to be the man, and she tries to be the woman in the house. So I play my role, she plays her role.
Okay.
It's a question of shining your shine, I shine my shine. Just like the sun.
Oh, it's a marriage of shine. Sasa uko na kijana wa 28. Kuna ka theory ka stereotype kanazungukanga hapa. Mtoto wa pastor wachana naye. Have you ever come across that?
Yeah. There's
Umesikia?
PKs. They call them PKs, preachers' kids.
Uh-huh.
You know, it happens. Not all of them, but it's just a stereotype that happens.
Unajua, there is always an element of truth behind.
Yeah, it's just like the way they say Kikuus are thieves or Kambas are Kamote people or Luyas are so and so.
Yes,
it's a stereotype.
Yes.
So that should not be the canon for every pastor's kid. That's what I'm saying.
Your son hajawahi fanya kitu ukajiambia.
No, even if my son did, my son is not the preacher. I am the preacher. My son was not called. He has his life. I'm the one who's called. My son is not a pastor. I'm the pastor. So my son should not be judged because of me. My son will grow up like any other child.
Yes.
And be like any other child and maybe do everything that other child will do.
Yes.
That's how I tell even my church.
That's a perfect way. That's a perfect way to put it. So wakifanya makosa, you pray
It is
for
them. They're kids. They're just like anybody's kids.
I think they don't have the pressure not to go to hell.
No. My son, I think, has done everything, by the way. He has had rastas one time. He has had earrings. He has done it all. But it's him. And I don't want him to miss a stage because of my calling. He can't carry my cross.
Bishop,
Why would my son carry my cross?
No, first, sawa. When as a bishop, right?
Yeah.
So he has to go through the stages of life independently.
Correct.
Independent of the pressure that comes with being a man of God.
Correct.
Right? How does that make you feel that you can be able to influence me, who's
Mm-hmm.
not your son, and maybe he's not followed the word that you...
No. I don't think he's not following. He's following, but he's just growing. He's a kid.
Time yake ya kuokoka
He's
ndio
a
bado.
kid. Yeah, he's a kid. My son is a kid. He's growing. He'll be saved by Jesus, not by me.
Makes sense.
It's Jesus who saves. I preach, I teach.
Then that brings me to the question of then someone's behavior then is not tied to parenting. Everyone has their own journey.
They do, but parents have got a serious... You see, the Bible says, bring up a child in the way he should grow. And when he's grown up, he should not depart from the ways. So your work is to bring them up. So when they grow up, they make decisions.
Okay. Sahi kuna kitu inaitwa co-parenting arrangement, also almost the new norm. We have a cluster of people who talk about, mimi ni mtoto tu nataka, I don't want to be tied down to someone else.
Yeah.
What's becoming of the institution of marriage and the family unit? Aren't you worried?
I'm not worried at all, even though it's not the ideal. Of course, I know the ideal as a man of God. I know the scriptures as a man of God.
Yes.
It's a man leaving his father and mother and joining to his wife and becoming one flesh. I know that is the ideal. But then I'm not going to be judging people who think like they can do it otherwise in their own way. But I do know the ideal. So what happens then to the people who think, listen, me, I don't want this kind of thing, but I want a child. They've got decisions to make, there are consequences, and their choices have got consequences. So, but for me, I know the ideal, and I would advocate for the ideal and let them choose. God himself actually just gives us what is the right thing to do, and it's up to us to choose. He says, choose life. So I'm a chooser of life, which is the way of God.
What's the solution to these problems that we are seeing? Things that we can classify as, okay, now, but they are in the public now. The roles of a father, deadbeatism, I believe we can call it that, deadbeatism. What's the way forward for that?
I think, if you ask me, my perspective is just having standards, having the ground rules. I should have standards, I should have values, I should have mores that dictate my life and dictate how I conduct myself as a man and as a father. Okay. If you don't have standards, if you don't have morals and mores are the set of rules that govern you, then you will have issues. And I think everybody has to get to a place where they have those kind of standards and ground rules as to the do's and don'ts so that we can move forward.
Okay. And do you see marriage getting extinct in the near future now that watu wako na independent mind, nisikia wanaitwa big mind now?
Well, I don't think it's going to be extinct. It's
going to be short term.
We are way back countries that started this business of divorce, but the people are still getting married in those countries. Case in point is U.S. Divorce in U.S. is not a big deal, but still people celebrate marriages. Kenya is really behind. Kenya is like 500 years behind in terms of many, many things.
We are way
we are way behind. So I don't think marriage will be extinct, but I just think that, well, people will make decisions as to what sort of life they want to choose to live. If they choose to live the ideal, God's way, those will be there. Those who think they'll be single will be there. Those who think will be co-parenting will be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe we have a concept called a fatherless generation. We have parents who, in fact, I can cite a video that we played earlier on the show of Denzel Washington, who actually blamed the incarceration of the black community to absence of fathers, who are also victims of the system in a different way.
Correct.
Yes. So this means that if things continue the way they are, we are going to a place that is worse than we are now. Should we prepare for the worst? Ama should we adapt to the situation? Ama, unaona, as you say, divorce ni kawaida na tuko mbali. It means bado hata hatujafika peak, so we can't even talk about flattening the curve.
Of divorce?
Yes.
Yeah, but I personally think that, as I said again, you'll always have classes of people, choices of people, all right? I think you'll always have that. There's no way you are going to ever eradicate co-parenting or single parents. But you'll also have those who will choose to stay together and raise homes. And as I said, consequences are there. Good thing is for them to know what happens when you choose to be a single mother, you know, or what are the pressures of being a single mother? Are you ready to bear the burden of loneliness? Are you ready to bear the burden of making decisions by yourself? Are you ready to make decisions without bouncing it off to anybody? You know, those are the kind of things that you need to get. Are you ready to be a strong-willed woman and at the same time take care of yourself? Because some of these single women, they are so strong-willed trying to raise children that they forget themselves. There are so many consequences so those are the things that they need to balance.
You've conducted weddings, right?
Yes, I have.
Kuna zenye umeona tu mnajiambia nyinyi hata muendi mahali.
Yeah, I've seen some. I've seen some. I've seen some.
Lakini unaacha tu
I've seen some.
And how does that make you feel? As in,
well, the best a counselor can do is basically just talk to them, not maybe directly, but indirectly. Tell them, listen, you do this, you do this. What do you think about it? You stay in America, you stay in Kenya. How is it going to happen? You know, those kind of things, you know. And have you thought about it, you know? Do you think it's going to affect your marriage, you know? And they insist still after you raise your concerns, and there could be so many concerns like the ones I've just raised. And I tell them, well, I have concerns about it. What do you think about it? Because it's for them to decide, not for you, as a counselor at the end of the day.
And you've seen them, unawawatch, alafu tena wanaenda sasa wanaachana huko, alafu unapata ile feeling.
They come back.
I told you.
Come back the same place. And I told them, well, I raised these concerns, and I told you. This business of distance, for instance, you're in America, she's in Kenya, you know. You're Oxford trained, you are nursery trained. Your education background is different. You're marrying out of your circle. The psychologists say that. Marrying out of your circles has got challenges, and sometimes you have to raise them.
I thought love does not know bounds.
Oh, please. It does. It does. It does.
Hizi stories a fairy tale.
It does. It does. You see, when the rubber meets the road, you have to understand that sometimes, and this is proved, scientifically proved, by psychologists and sociologists, that marrying out of your circle can be a problem. In fact, they've even said a Mzungu marrying an African can also be a problem because they're raised differently. Their worldview is different. The way they think, the way they reason, the way they live, okay, is different from the way a guy maybe from Nyeri lives, you know, or Meru lives, you know. The way they were brought up is different. So those things can collide sometimes. And that's why we tell you, before you get married, consider, are you able to cope with the getting married out of your circle?
Yani, you've just prophesied my breakup even before I found my Mzungu.
I'm not prophesying your breakup. I'm just telling you, consider the differences that you have and see whether you can handle them. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you're going to break up. There are people who get married and they're happy.
So for the people who are married, father, mother, and children, to create a stable home for children are people who considered factors like background, what they have in common before they settle down.
Everything. I know, even in Kenya here. I mean,
marriage is a parliamentary process.
Not parliamentary. I'm not saying parliamentary. I'm just basically giving you, and I think I'm very clear in my explanation. I'm basically saying sometimes, according to psychologists and sociologists, you have to be careful when you're marrying out of your circle. And I gave examples. That does not mean that you'll end up in divorce, but it may be challenging. And you have to overcome the challenges if you're going to be happily married.
Thank you, guys. The bishop has said that if you want a successful marriage, marry a woman with the same salary. I hope. I actually try to break down stuff for people so that they can.
You're misquoting me.
That's misleading.
You're misleading.
The same circle in Manisha.
You're misleading and you're misquoting. Those are not my words, they're your words. It's okay.
It's my interpretation because
it's your words.
I'm confused. I've always believed in the concept of love is blind. It does not know. But so when you actually explain that marrying out of your circle has psychological effects and could actually be tricky for you, I believe that presents a challenge even for ongoing relationships. Kuna watu hata labda mtu alikuwa na watch kama wamekaa pamoja, they've moved seats.
Well, I don't know how they're going to use the knowledge I'm pouring out in this place, but my business is to pour out knowledge and for them to hear me.
Asante sana. It's been a pleasure
to
have you come on. Karibu tena na tena.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
it. For honoring our invite.
Thank you.
Last word kwa watu wa kanisa na watu wa Injili. Kitu moja ya scare people a little bit.
No. I think the church is doing a good job, and the church should continue being the salt of the earth and the light of the world. And without the church, there's no hope.
Siku hizi
things would be worse.
hakuna kuambia watu watachomeka.
Things would be worse without the church.
Okay.
So the church is still very instrumental and very, very critical for the well-being of the society.
Okay. Sawa. Bishop David Muriithi wa House of Grace. I've been to your church, by the way.
Thank you.
But nakujanga chini ya maji.
Thank you.
Kujanga once na.
You're most welcome.
Pale Langata Road.
Yes.
Asante sana. Now, that's it for the weekend edition. See you next week. My name is Dr. Kingori.